Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Course Building Secrets podcast. I am so thrilled that you are all here today. I want to introduce you to Jenny Hansen Lane. I am so excited, Jenny, that you are on the podcast today. It is going to be an awesome conversation. So, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, just a little bit about your story, because I think it's so fascinating for people to hear, like how you went from where you have been to where you are today. So give us a little bit of a shout out in terms of your background.
Thank you, Tara. First of all, you have like a radio voice, and I never really noticed it. And it's maybe because I met you in person. So I saw, the face with the name. So I love that. I'm so excited to be here and meet your people. We both have that love of course building. And so I know all of our listeners will really love kind of how this happened for me. I was in digital marketing, building courses, and my little sister, she went to Guatemala and she wrote a book. And I was like, wait, I've always wanted to do that. And I kind of talked to her about it. And then I thought, like, what if I took my course and turned it into a book? And so I got on YouTube and I just started Googling, like, there wasn't a lot of resources for it. But what I found is that people were taking pieces of their content and putting it in book form and then putting it on Amazon. And so I kind of tested that out. And it's print on demand books. And it's the same department that people would do like Kindle books, but I wasn't actually writing books. I started with like journals and planners. And my first month, I got a royalty of like $19.18. And I was shocked because I didn't have to answer an email. I love my email list. I didn't have to get on a Zoom call. I love getting on Zoom calls. It was just a different type of income. And that was kind of my permission of like, let's go all in and figure this out. And that was 2.5 years ago. Since then, I've crossed six figures for this income stream. And that is my main course now, is teaching people that they don't need permission or they don't need to spend a lot of money to establish authority on Amazon.
Okay, so there's so many things. Like, I'm so excited to talk to you about this and have our listeners listen to this because there's so many awesome things. So, first of all, you sort of like jumped into this and figured it out, which I love. One of the things I love about you is that you're like, you know what, I'm just going to go try it. I'm going to go see what's going to happen. I'm going to get some success. And then now you've been able to share that with other people, which is so powerful. But the concept of like, I want to write a book, I think so many people have that of like, well, how do I take my expertise and turn it into not only an online business, not only sort of online courses and coaching to be able to help people, but then how do you do it in a different delivery method? One of the things we talk about in the infinite scale method is like, once you have your signature framework, you can deliver it in a million different ways. And so part of that is a book. But like the thing that's so cool, I think, about what you're doing is, yes, a book is important and a book is cool and something that you can put on Amazon. But you're like, I didn't even stress about that. I just grabbed like a part of what I was doing, a planner, a journal, a workbook, or whatever, started with that, and then saw that it was possible to do that. And how many of you who are listening already have something that's probably in your Google Drive or Dropbox sitting there and nobody's looking at it, right? Like, so Jenny helps take that and put it somewhere, right? So I love the fact that you're doing that and that you've gone on this journey and transition to like a different income source. So tell us a little bit about, like, did you just like put it out there, like looking at trying to figure it out online and actually executing are two totally different things. So how did you get from kind of that concept or trying to figure it out, watching videos, to actually doing it and seeing that there was actually an income stream to this?
Okay, I love that question. So as you were talking, I was thinking about all the course creators that press play on that video, their students go through it, and they hear things from people like us that say, okay, now get a pencil and paper out, get a pen and a notebook out. There's absolutely no reason why we can't be the ones supplying that book for people when they go through a course. So when I started taking my content and putting it on Amazon, I had to really think about like the end goal, because I wasn't actively promoting that course, because I was like, once I saw there was income, I was like, well, what else is there? I didn't have any back end offers or anything like that. So that was kind of my test. And I might have it around here somewhere where it was a how to be authentic online. It was, 4 years of prompts. And so it was a book that someone could go through and fill out as they're using social media. But what I learned is that Amazon has 300 million buyers and 90 million monthly buyers. And so it was like, okay. And for those of you that don't know, Tara and I love like helping people get through courses. That's originally how we connected, of like how to create transformation. And so at the time that we met in 2021 or 2022, I was doing gamification. And that's almost like, for those of you that are new to that word, it's the emotional motivation to get results. It's kind of like we're plumbers and we're making sure the course doesn't have any leaks, but the water is leads. And if there's no water in the pipes, it doesn't matter how good the pipes are. And so Amazon is actually the water. Like, there's so many people, I'm one of them, you're probably one of them too, that buy things on Amazon for overnight shipping. And so on Amazon, because it is a buyer's platform, the audience is already there. And so what I like to tell people is like it's a supply and demand. And so I started learning that if you went to the search bar on Amazon and you went under the category of books, just drop down and you started to type in words, then suggestions would come up. And what I learned is those are actually called customer search terms or keywords. And Amazon is only suggesting them if other people are typing them in. So that was like a little form of validation to see like, oh, this is actually in demand. And so you can click on those keywords and it will take you to an entire category of what's available there. So then I realized, okay, this is an SEO game in a way where I can look things up and see if there's any market gaps for me. And I'm a multi-passionate person. So at this time, I told myself I'm not going to limit it to a course that I'm not even really promoting. I'm going to just lean into the Amazon traffic. And I found some niches that I knew wouldn't fit under my personal name as a digital marketer. And so I made up secret pen names and I put those books out and they started selling. I started doing it with my little kids. We did like coloring books. And that's really what I started to see the power of, is like, I could use this for my business or I could use it for just something that I was passionate about. And so where I'm at kind of now is 2 weeks ago, I had someone purchase my self-paced program and they found me from Amazon. So it was like so bizarre that I was on a webinar and she was like, you actually outranked me with your book. And it's the book that we're anthology. You can see it behind Tara on the screen if you're watching this on video. And so
Yes,
that was
this is the
really,
book that Jenny had all of us write. So we'll talk about that too at some point.
so it was really powerful to see like, oh, did I just siphon a lead from Amazon? So now I'm really like, I've started to take my webinar and I think I'm going to put it in a book form and put it on Amazon, just because the traffic's there and it can't hurt. It can't hurt to just establish authority. And I will tell you, when I first published my first book and I was able to rank it number one, a lot of people in the industry started treating me different. And that was like a thing I didn't think was real, but it really is real. Taking that next step, like something about a book is very authoritative. It's more than a course. And so for those of you that are like just chronic course creators, like there's probably a place for you to put that on Amazon.
Yeah, I think that that's so powerful, right? Because it's like, again, we have, if you are able to build a business based on your expertise, your intellectual capital, there's like, this is a whole nother dimension outside of coaching, outside of, courses or programs, or, kind of packaging your expertise. And I think that in the past it was like, well, it needed to be this big ordeal. You needed to have a publisher, you needed to go through 14 million iterations of edits and all of the things. And so for me personally, even, it just felt so daunting. Like, I'm like, I have content all over the place. If I were just to put it into one format of something somebody could consume, like in book format, I mean, I have 350 some episodes of the podcast, right? Like, even just putting that into a compilation that could go into a book that people can consume it in a different way is so powerful. And so I feel like you're bringing that to light, that it doesn't have to be, this big ordeal. It's just something that you can you can package just the same way as you package the other things that you've already packaged in your business. And so I love that. And I do think that I agree that there's also sort of an elevated authority when you say you have a book, or you have a best-selling book, or whatever it is that you're doing. And so I think that's super powerful. And one of the things that I love about the way that you're teaching this is that it's not so difficult, right? Like it's possible. And it's just like, if you just take the time and put it all together and format it easily in a tool that we already have, and start to get momentum on Amazon, then it starts to snowball, which I think is what you've proved with it going from $19 to now six figures in totally passive income. You've built it one time, and now you're able to sell it over and over again, is such a powerful lesson for people. So I love that. So when you're helping people, or when you're teaching people about this process, what do you think one of the biggest stumbling blocks that people have around this is? Is it the mechanics? Is it the authority? What is it?
I think a lot of times people think, okay, Jenny made $19. I'm going to go do that immediately. And I always make people publish one blank notebook first, just a journal with lines, because it's not the same as uploading a video to YouTube. It's not the same as posting on Facebook. But once you do it, there's something in your brain that like switches, and you see like, oh, I put a book out, even if I used a secret pen name, like it's out there. And so I think that's the very most important thing that took me a couple of weeks to figure out when I started taking people through my program, was like, why aren't they just like diving in like I do? I'm like, well, they're not me. They're not like, just take action like crazy. So having the 72-hour publisher like challenge is a great way for people just to be like, okay, I did the thing. What's next? The second part to that is, because we have our own false ideas, or not false, old ideas about books, we think we need to shove A to Z in there. But because Amazon is a platform where people are searching for solutions, it's almost more powerful to focus on, how do I get someone from A to B? And I like to explain that almost like, I believe a masterclass is like A to B. And so when we're looking to provide a solution for someone, we can keep it very simple. And when we keep it very simple, we can keep the book not ginormous, but then we have room to provide more results.
Mm-hmm.
And so that one book that is like a prompted journal has made me 40 grand. I started to see what else could the customer want, and I started publishing similar books with a little bit different angle under the same pen name, because Amazon now has what's called Amazon followers. And so if you build a following on Amazon, Amazon will email your customer every time you launch a book. So it's like, what? Like, Amazon is our super affiliate. It's really powerful.
Okay, that it's just like fascinating. It's so fun. Every time I talk to you, I'm like, oh, I'm going to sit down and do this, and then of course I get distracted and I don't do it. But I'm working on it. Like I've got some stuff in the works. So if you're listening, it's coming. There's stuff coming. But I love the idea of just like something super simple that you get started with, just to get get through the mechanics of it, right? Like just the sort of the mind block of, oh, it's going to be hard, or it's going to format and all the crap and the details. So that's awesome. So what do you say, like, what's your advice to someone who wants to get started and just is like overwhelmed by thinking about the process, or doesn't even believe that they have what it takes to jump into it?
So when you are, I think there's like 97% of people in the world that's on their bucket list to write a book, or like to have a book. So it's actually something that really unifies us and brings us together. But for a long time, before 1996, we did need permission. We did need traditional publishers to tell us that idea is good, right? We've heard about J.K. Rowling getting, rejected a bunch of times, Stephen King like over 27 times. And, a lot of people throw rocks at Amazon, but I think I call him Beth Bezos instead of Jeff Bezos, but like, he actually kind of opened the door for a lot of growth for so many of us. And he started with public domain books
Mhm.
himself. That's why he built the platform. And so he just wanted to make that more accessible for people. And he thought in the 90s, like, what's something that's never going to go away? And it was books. And so if you're at that place where you're just like, yeah, this really is speaking to me that I want to do more with books, it really is in your best interest just to learn how to set up an account and get a book out, because I've met so many people that have spent 10, 20, $30,000 to have a book,
Mhm.
and it didn't really get them the results that they wanted, or they couldn't really justify the investment. Again, when you learn the skill set, it creates an additional layer of security in your business
Mhm.
because you don't have to ask for permission. And it actually kind of allows you to pivot and move around if you'd like to, because you can have unlimited pen names. And something that I've noticed is that, if you have a business, you have a domain, you can actually name that as your pen name. And Amazon is one of the giants with Google. So they're going to try to rank
Mhm.
those keywords on Google. So for a long time, when you typed in my name, Amazon was the first link that came up. And that really established authority for me. And now I've, published over 600 YouTube videos. So Google's trying to rank that a little bit more. But if you feel like, oh, I have an idea, it is worth just setting up an account because it's free. And we actually are going to be talking about a masterclass that we're offering. And in that masterclass, I'm going to give everybody the interior that I first uploaded.
Mhm.
So it's like, oh, after that, you can just go like practice and then get an idea of like, what is that thing? And there's probably so many people listening that like, oh, I'm known for this. I can help people get this result very quickly. That's your A to B. The shortest amount of pages that you need to put on Amazon is 42. So
42.
it's
I was
like
actually going to ask you that.
it's
42
like
pages.
if you have a workbook that's 80 pages, maybe you put your framework in it, it's enough. It's enough for you to just start telling your audience about it, building a following there, and just start kind of owning more of your journey in an authoritative way.
Mhm. Mhm. I love it. Well, and it also, I mean, it puts you in the position where you're sort of forced to focus your message as well, which is actually a great byproduct in and of itself outside of, all the things that we're talking about is when you are forced to put it into a container, whether it be a course, whether it be a program, whether it be a book, whether it be whatever, it is that it helps you focus in on your message, which is a key part of the whole game of, being an online business owner. So awesome. Okay, so one of the things I also just love, and then I want to transition to Dear Female Digital Entrepreneur, but one of the things I love is when you are like, first of all, it's self-publishing, so you don't have to go out and get a publisher. You're not paying thousands and thousands of dollars to like get someone else to publish your book. So it's self-publishing. And then I think the other thing that I just want to like say out loud is you're not necessarily just talking about books. You're talking about journals and planners and workbooks and like bookish things. So it doesn't even have to be a traditional book. It could, and that's really where you've made most of your money, right? Is in planners
Yes.
and journals and other things. And so that, just even when you're saying like a planner is mostly just lines, like it's not, you're not cramming it full of stuff. And so that should also simplify the process for everyone. Is it's not like, it doesn't need to be your body of work. It doesn't need to be this big complicated, thing or whatever. It could just really be so simple as, again, something you already have that you're giving to your students, that one, they can go and buy on Amazon as part of your program, and it could be just a super nice complimentary piece where you're not. One of the things I always talk about is I had a friend back in, you're right, it was back probably in the 90s, but like she wrote a book and then her entire garage was full of books. And she's like, I can't sell these books. How do I sell these books? I have no idea. But she had boxes and boxes and boxes in her garage. And like when we have workbooks and we send them out, when somebody buys, we send them out manually or, something like that. Amazon's print on demand. So somebody buys and then they get it. You're not involved in any of that. You don't have books in your garage. You don't have all of that weird stuff that we used to have back in the day, and how powerful that is just in and of itself. So even if it's not like mass market strategy on Amazon, use it with your customers. Like send
Yeah.
your customers there.
Yeah. And it's people don't even really realize, and because you don't pay Amazon anything, they just take a cut for the printing, shipping, and just mailing it to your customer. So for those of you that are watching on video, I just launched a new course and I just took people through how I made this notebook, and it just has a little, like just my little logo on it, and it's just lined, and I got it in the mail and I just showed people. So it's like, even thinking about like if branding is important to you in your business, just branding some assets where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't just another thing where people, your customers can remember you by, and they can just go get it from Amazon. And you're correct when you say like when someone buys your book, that is the only time that Amazon, like they store your digital file for free and they just take a cut and you set the price. So like the most expensive, if you wanted to take your best course, you could put it on Amazon. The most pages you can have on Amazon is 830, which is huge. And the highest price you can put it at is $250. So I was on TikTok 2 months ago and there was a guy talking about health and wellness, and he was selling a little tiny course. He was selling his entire course into a book on Amazon. It's tiny. It's color. He made it in Canva. This book was $150. And I bought it because I was like, it's his entire course in book form. And so it really unlocked my ideas more because I'd already published 300 books by the time I saw this. But it really just showed me of like, he did that because he's not in a place to sit down with clients over Zoom. He's traveling the world. So it's like having the skill set is so great because you never know when it's like, oh, I actually want to just kind of focus on passive income.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when we retire a course, right? Like if it's in demand on Amazon, there isn't any reason why we shouldn't just put it out there to establish that authority.
Okay, like every time I talk to you, I get excited. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna. No, I'm. This is why we're doing this masterclass, and we're gonna talk about that in a minute. But the reason we're doing this is so I can be like the number one student and like take all the notes so that I can show you how Jenny's system works, and I can take some of the stuff that I have. In fact, it's funny because I just was showing her the other day, like I have a digital planner where I help, it's like a written planner where you can map out your whole digital program. I have 50 ways guide, and I have my workbook that I take people through, and I'm like, Jenny's like, why are those not on Amazon? I'm like, I don't know, I have them published somewhere else. So those are going on Amazon, and that's what Jenny's going to help me do as a result of this masterclass. So again, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Before we do that though, I want to dive into the female digital entrepreneur book because that was such a fun project that we did, Jenny. So tell us, like, how did you come up with that idea, first of all, and then tell us a little bit about how it worked and what's happening with it today, because it wasn't just like a project that you did with a bunch of people, but we were able to get to the bestseller status. So talk to us a little bit about that because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, so as those of you know, online can be kind of lonely, as solopreneurs or we have small teams. And I knew about anthologies because I participated in one many years ago, and there was 75 people in it, and the guy in charge just like slapped his face on the front, and it wasn't as fun to promote because I'm like, what? Anyways, it took way too long. And just the feedback, I was like, I didn't even have any control over what was inside. The book is live, it's attached to my name now, but I don't even teach what I put in there. And if I had been the one to do it, I could update the chapter if I needed to. So I was just thinking of like, I know how to hit number one. I've done it multiple times. I want to work with women that I've met over time to help them establish that authority. And I just thought, maybe A to Z is the way to do it. And so I made my list of important aspects of being a digital entrepreneur online, and then I reached out to each woman individually. And I also kind of felt this resurgence with like the Barbie movie and different things that were
Mm-hmm.
going on, that like women
Okay, but
do better when they're not alone, like supporting each other.
yes.
And so that's kind of where the origin story came, where we had 26 women, all different topics, sharing. And I knew that there was a market gap for that on Amazon. And so I knew that I could reach number one, but then also collectively, we could have something that we did together.
There's my
Letter?
chapter. And so that's awesome. And then you got everyone together to do their chapter. You did you write a chapter in there? Or did
I
you write
just
the
did the
introduction?
intro. And
Yeah.
my little sister said, like, why didn't you write more? But I was like, I just want other people to shine.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, maybe in the future, I kind of want to do a volume 2 of that book because it did well and it's so cute. And I love the women in it. But I'm also like, it's okay for me to take a step back and let people. I mean, 26 is a lot. I think
Mm-hmm.
that experience, I'll go back to 9 so we can hit deadlines better. But like, no one was mad. It was a passion project of mine. So it was fun.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And because you know how to do all the things, you were able to sort of just walk us through the steps of like, just go do this and then do this and then do this. So it's super simple. But I think it was really fun for all of us to go through the process of, one, writing it, but two, I mean, I felt like we all had a great time with hitting number one on the bestseller list, and it was sort of a collective group celebration, really, of that. And then it just becomes an asset underneath your library, then, right? And so you're able to continue to grow reach on it and have it be something that's in your collection.
Yeah, and we've had authors inside the book reach out to others and do
Mm-hmm.
collaborations together. And so it's been really neat because these were like my selection of women, but not everyone knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a great way to bring people together. I've been thinking about another one, and some of the women are like, we need to make it a summit on the back of a book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so much work, but it could be so much fun. So there really is just like so much you can use for that, especially because we hit number one. We could absolutely in volume 2 do more where we focus on the lead generation of getting more customers from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And truly, like you said, it's a book asset. It goes in your library and you can't, like, my little sister was like, oh, that chapter was so fun. I think I'm going to write a full book now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of inspires you to think of like, okay, 3,000 words, that was nothing. I could do that 10 more times and that's a book.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I mean, for sure. When I was like, oh, I could just keep going. Like, there's a lot more. I got a lot more to say. I could just keep on going. So, yeah, no, that was great. It was a great experience. All right. So, if you could give my audience one sort of piece of advice that they can take action on, what would that be?
Literally just setting up the account. It's free. It's kdp.amazon.com. Just setting up the account is a big win to say, like, I'm committed to this idea that I've had for a long time. And, once I got in this world, I've met people that actually build passive income streams with books just to sell the account. And so
Oh,
there's this
interesting.
whole world of like, there's a guy, he sold his account for $800,000. Another girl in Spain that sold hers for 120, and they sign a non-compete not to publish in those niches again, but they open new accounts and they just go again. So there's really like great opportunities. And also, I would just remind the course builder here that there are customers that you have that do prefer tactile things. And I
Mm-hmm.
think in the digital minutia and mess, we can forget about that. But like, I'm one of those people, I have a physical planner and I have a Google Calendar, and I do better when I write things down and it's synced up.
Mm-hmm.
And so books aren't going to go away. So you might as well like lean into it on the
Yep.
biggest buyer's platform and just play. That's kind of what I feel like. It's just playing.
Yeah, no, and that's such great advice because I do think that so often in this new digital world or this digital world, I guess not really new, that we forget that there's just nothing like going and either having a physical planner or having something physical in front of us, and people are still buying books all day long. So yeah, so that's awesome. Okay, cool. And then what's like your favorite either digital marketing or online business book that you love that you couldn't live without that's helped you so much in your business?
That is a very loaded question. So I'm going to give two answers. I'm going to share the most recent book that I just read because it's really, no one even knows about it. I'm like, why isn't everyone talking about it? It's called Microscripts. And there, if you just type in Microscripts on Amazon, it's right there. this gentleman he worked at the original Mad Men advertising, like the TV show's
Mm,
based off of. And he talks about microscripts. They're kind of like keywords or phrases that win over audiences. And so the book covers like, not to be political, but we're releasing this, right around the election time. Just he gave examples of like the Republican Party does really good with microscripts, like "Make America Great Again." Like whether you love it or hate it, you cannot forget it. And so microscripts, like I'm loving it. McDonald's,
mm,
like they can be slogans, but if microscripts is about the conversion piece of it, and so I really had to lean into that because I'm not a traditional publisher. I've had to lean in, having to kind of explain to people we're not writing books. And like the best way to describe it is kind of bookish because it creates that curiosity and allows people to think like, is she obsessed with books? Yes, but like, what is the book thing about? And I read the book like in a day and I marked it up. And so that is probably it's a highlight for me this year. But my all time favorite marketing book would be .com Secrets by Russell
mm,
Brunson.
mhm,
And the reason why I go back to that one is because there's so many principles about serving other people and how much you can grow by serving other people and having values that you launch with. And so that is probably the core to a lot of my success, is just understanding that selling is a form of service too. Because when I first launched my program, I told my husband some of my fears. I'm like, I am just the help button on Amazon KDP. That's all my course is. And he was like, no one that put that course, no one on Amazon help button has published 500 books.
mhm.
No one on Amazon understands Amazon ads like you. No one has the marketing background. And I was like, it's true. And so that really has been a foundation for me to understand that, like, for those of you listening, you are unique enough to do whatever
Mhm.
you want. Like,
Mhm.
you have experiences and you come with a different angle that makes it your own thing. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. All right, cool, cool, cool. All right, so let's get into what are we doing together? Because I'm super excited about this in terms of like how do we match the sort of two worlds together? And so Jenny, tell us a little bit about what we're going to be working on.
We're going to actually host a live masterclass, and we will take you through like the things we've talked about. So this is for you if you feel like you have a skill set inside of your course and you're like, it needs to breathe more. This is for you if you've ever wanted to establish more authority. I was talking to a friend that lost a trademark lawsuit because the person she was fighting against used the title of the framework and she had it inside of a book. Anyways, there was so
Mm,
much that I learned of like protecting your brand by having it in a book asset. That's the only reason that she lost in court. So just like thinking of your brand and giving it a little bit more leg to be protected. So in our masterclass, we're going to kind of talk about what I call the ABC method. So you've heard me say customer search terms. I want you to come to this class with your skill set, and I'm going to do over the shoulder. And we're going to look at things in demand. We're going to see how much books are making. And then we're going to talk about the second part of the masterclass is like, what is the format for you? Is it just to start with a blank journal with your brand? Or is it like, I have a dusty PDF, I'm going to publish? And then the third part of the masterclass, we're going to just talk about the positioning of like getting it on Amazon and then the marketing that you can do around that. So we're only doing this. This is the only thing planned, and it's live and it's 60 minutes. So we haven't like limited seats, but we really want people that are
mhm.
excited to repurpose and people that want to not pay $10,000 to publish a book.
For sure, for sure. So this is going to be an amazing session, and all of the information for it will be down in the show notes, so you can go ahead and register. It is on November 21st. So if you are listening to this after November 21st, you're out of luck. No, we we will put something for you in the show notes if you're listening to this after November 21st, 2024. But get excited because this is going to be that next piece that you need in growing your online business. And just imagine getting to that point. And like I said, I'm going to be in like the front row taking notes about what Jenny has to say, because it matches so well to where we're growing. And I've got all those dusty PDFs. And so I want to start putting them out there. And so I'm excited about that. So take the journey with me, with Jenny at the helm, and show up on the 21st, and we'll see you there, because I think it's going to be a super nice transition into like what's next. Like you've worked on your framework, you've worked on kind of building your body of work. How do we start to spread that out further? And I think that, Jenny, the timing of this, I think, is great. What happens, like, is there anything that happens during the holidays? Like, do people buy more during the holidays, especially journals and planners and things like it, if it's time based or whatever else? Like, is there anything around that you can speak to?
Yeah, so right now the data is that 2.1 million books are sold every day online, and Amazon holds like 70% of that market space. And
That's
so
crazy.
during Christmas, people buy books as gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk about that ABC method where we go to the search bar, you can type in books as gifts, and it is a legitimate keyword. And so my first December on Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, I brought in 8 grand. And that was like a game changer. And when you lean into January, like everyone's like new me, new planner, like I did $11,000 because that was in demand. So if you are an expert in a field and that's the great thing. Most of us do evergreen things. But if you are like a fitness coach or you have something that is really niche for a holiday, you can see the spike of sales too. And so it is a great time to attend this masterclass and set up an account and get some assets out on Amazon. So then you're ready. And I always think about
Mm-hmm.
like when TikTok blew up, people that really leaned into that did really well. And your competition is probably not on Amazon. So if you can start establishing your authority now and just learn, you'll be light years ahead versus, that's kind of also, I started seeing other people become bestsellers and I was like, oh, I want that too.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, oh, I can do that on demand because I know how. I will say too, like, there are a lot of people that do this process that don't have an email list. And
Mm.
so there's one thing about Amazon audiences and then our own traffic. And so you can make passive income if the categories you're publishing in are not in demand because you have an email list. It's just like I feel bad for all the self publishers that aren't business owners like us, because once we master this, we can go in and we can hit number one because we have an email list that wants our product.
It wants a product. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, you heard it from Jenny, the pro. Show up on the 21st. But Jenny, thank you so much for being our guest today on the podcast. All the things that you shared were amazing, and I can't wait to actually dive in. And I have a KDP account, just haven't filled it with anything yet. So I'm going to go and do that today. So we'll have to do a follow up actually, to the podcast audience when like you're able to get me starting to get some traction, and then we'll keep on running forward with this. But I love just being able to add this dimension to our online businesses, and you're rocking it, you're knocking it out of the park. So it's fun to hear your story and how that's gone. So all right, everybody, thanks for joining us today. You can find Jenny on
Just Jenny Hansen Lane, every social media platform.
Jenny Hansen Lane. There you go. You heard it from her. It will be in the show notes. I'll also have all of the resources that she mentioned there. And of course, a way to register for that November 21st session. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.